The day he was born was one that his family would never forget. It was supposed to be a day of joy, a day to welcome a new life into the world. But as the doctor handed the tiny baby to his mother, something was immediately different. The mother looked down at her child with love and curiosity, but then her eyes widened in shock. She noticed right away that her baby had no arms. The tiny shoulders were smooth, and where little hands should have been, there was only skin. The father, standing nervously by her side, felt a wave of fear and confusion wash over him. He had never imagined something like this happening, and his mind was flooded with questions about what the future would hold. The nurse tried to offer comfort, explaining that babies come in all shapes and sizes, but nothing could fully prepare them for what they were seeing. The hospital room was silent except for the baby's soft cries, but in those cries, there was also a quiet strength, a hint of the fighter he would become. In the first moments, the parents felt a whirlwind of emotions, sadness, worry, and even guilt. Why had this happened to their child? Was it something they had done? Could he live a normal life? All these thoughts raced through their minds. But beneath the fear, there was a deep, unshakable love for this little boy. They held him close, feeling his tiny heartbeat against theirs, and slowly, that love began to outweigh their fears. They knew they would do everything in their power to give him a full and happy life. From the very beginning, they realized that life would not be easy for him. Everyday tasks that others took for granted, holding a spoon, playing with toys, even hugging, would need new solutions. They thought about the challenges ahead, but they also noticed something remarkable. Even without arms, the baby had an incredible spirit. His eyes were bright and curious, and he seemed to observe the world around him with an intensity that was unusual for such a small child. It was as if he already knew he had to work harder than others to achieve the same things, and that determination was something that could not be taught. The first few days were full of adjustments. The nurses showed the parents ways to help him eat, how to support his movements, and how to make him comfortable in the crib. Bathing him, dressing him, even changing diapers required patience and creativity. Every small action was a lesson in love, patience, and ingenuity. The parents began to realize that while his arms were missing, his potential was limitless. They started imagining a future where their son could accomplish amazing things, and that hope gave them strength. Outside the hospital, friends and family learned about the baby. Some were sympathetic, some curious, and some were shocked, but the parents noticed that each reaction gave them a chance to educate others, to explain that their child was not less than anyone else, but simply different. They began to understand that part of their journey would involve not only raising their son, but also helping the world see him as capable and extraordinary. This early understanding shaped their approach, planting the seeds of resilience that would grow in the years to come. Even in those first days, small moments revealed his incredible spirit. He would twist his body in the crib, trying to reach objects with his feet. He would grip his tiny blanket between his toes and pull it closer, sometimes smiling at the accomplishment. Those tiny victories, though simple, were proof of his determination. The parents watched, amazed and inspired, realizing that their child was already teaching them important lessons about perseverance, courage, and creativity. By the time they left the hospital, the parents felt a mixture of relief and anticipation. Relief that their child was healthy and strong, anticipation for the challenges and triumphs that awaited them. They understood that their journey was just beginning, and that it would be filled with both heartbreak and extraordinary joy. Every step, every milestone would be hard-earned, but also deeply meaningful. They promised themselves that they would never treat him as someone who was limited, but instead as someone who could achieve the impossible with the right support and love. Even though the world had placed a challenge before him, from the very first day, it was clear that he was not defined by what he didn't have, but by the spirit, courage, and determination he carried inside. That tiny baby, born without arms, had already begun a story that would touch hearts, inspire millions, and one day, create a miracle that would make the whole world cry. The parents held him close that night, whispering words of love and hope, not knowing the incredible journey that lay ahead. but knowing that together, they could face anything. Life after leaving the hospital was a mix of excitement, challenges, and small victories. The world outside was bigger and more complicated than the quiet, controlled environment of the hospital. Every day brought new tasks, new lessons, and new obstacles, but also new opportunities to discover the incredible strength of this little boy. The parents quickly realized that raising a child without arms would require creativity, patience, and constant attention, from feeding him to helping him move around safely. Every action demanded thought and care. At first, even the simplest things seemed impossible, like holding a spoon or picking up a toy, but the boy's determination soon surprised everyone. As the days turned into weeks, the parents began teaching him how to use his feet and legs to do what hands usually do. It was awkward at first, watching him awkwardly grab a bottle or toy with his toes, but soon he started mastering small movements with surprising skill. He would stretch his toes, grip objects, and pull them toward himself, sometimes falling over in the process, but always getting up with a determined smile. His parents watched with a mixture of awe and pride, realizing that their son was not helpless. He was learning to live in a world built for hands, and he was adapting in ways no one expected. The neighborhood children were curious when they saw him. Some stared, some whispered, and some were hesitant to play. But the boy didn't let this stop him. He wanted to explore, to run, to play games just like other kids. Using his feet, he learned to draw on the floor with crayons, stack blocks, and even kick a ball. Each small success gave him confidence and made others see that he was capable of amazing things. Slowly, the whispers and stares turned into admiration. The other children began cheering him on, amazed at how he could do things they thought impossible. Every day at home was a new lesson in resilience. His parents had to rethink everything about daily life. They adapted furniture, designed custom feeding tools, and even modified toys so he could use them comfortably. It was a constant challenge, but they never gave up, and their love and dedication became the foundation of his strength. Even the smallest victories were celebrated like major accomplishments. A successful meal without spilling, a toy grabbed independently, or a scribble turned into a recognizable drawing. Each one was a step toward independence. School presented another set of challenges. The boy was eager to learn, but classrooms were not designed for children without arms. Desks, chairs, and learning tools all assumed students had hands. At first, he struggled to write, hold books, and participate in activities. Teachers were unsure how to help, and some children didn't know how to react, but the boy refused to give up. He found creative solutions, writing with his foot, using his mouth for small tasks, and asking for help when needed. His determination inspired teachers and classmates alike. They began to see him not as someone limited, but as someone extraordinary, whose creativity and persistence could teach them all. Outside of school, he discovered other ways to explore the world. He loved music and sound. And with his feet and toes, he found ways to play simple instruments. He could tap out rhythms, strum strings, and even manage small percussion instruments. The joy on his face when he made music was infectious, and it drew others to him. People began to realize that while his arms were missing, his spirit, creativity, and courage were limitless. His laughter and curiosity became contagious, bringing smiles to everyone around him. The parents also noticed that the boy had a unique emotional strength. He faced frustration, pain, and exhaustion every day, but he rarely gave up, even when tasks were difficult. He kept trying. His perseverance was a lesson not only for the family, but for everyone who saw him. They began to understand that the real miracle was not just in what he could do, but in his refusal to be defined by what he could not do. This early stage of his life was shaping him into someone who would face challenges with courage and inspire the world. Family outings became a mix of excitement and planning. Public places were often overwhelming, with people staring or asking questions. Sometimes strangers reacted with pity, which made the parents uncomfortable, but the boy would smile, wave his foot, or interact with curiosity, showing that he was more than his disability. He was learning to navigate a world full of obstacles. And he did it with grace and determination. People who met him often left with a sense of awe and admiration, realizing that true courage and strength were not measured by physical abilities, but by the heart and mind. As he turned 3 and 4, his abilities continued to grow. Each milestone became a celebration. Each small success a reminder of what determination could achieve. His parents documented every achievement, from learning to hold a cup with his toes to drawing simple shapes on paper. They knew these early years were laying the foundation for something extraordinary, something that would one day inspire people far beyond their own home. Even the neighbors, once unsure how to react, began to see him as a symbol of hope, a reminder that challenges can be overcome with love, creativity, and persistence. By the time he reached 5 and 6, the boy's life was filled with small wonders. Every day was still a challenge, but he met each one with curiosity and determination. What had started as a frightening, uncertain beginning was turning into a story of courage and inspiration. The parents knew that their son was extraordinary, not because he was born without arms, but because of the way he faced life. Every step, every movement, every small accomplishment was a testament to his spirit. And little did the world know, the wonder he was about to achieve at 6 years old would soon touch millions, leaving them in tears and reminding everyone of the extraordinary power of courage, hope, and love. By the time he was 6 years old, the boy had already accomplished so much that even strangers were amazed. But life had bigger plans for him, and the world had no idea that this little child, born without arms, was about to create a moment that would touch hearts across the globe. He had grown stronger, more confident, and more independent, mastering tasks that most children his age accomplished effortlessly with hands. Yet what made him truly special was not just his skill, but his determination, curiosity, and the way he approached life with a fearless heart. Every morning, he would wake up excited, ready to try something new, and every evening, his parents would marvel at what he had achieved. School had become a place of both learning and adventure. Teachers who once worried about how he would manage now watched in awe as he completed tasks in ways no one had imagined. While other children might have given up when something seemed difficult, he only grew more determined. If he wanted to draw, he would hold a crayon between his toes. Sometimes the lines were wobbly, sometimes perfect, but he always smiled, proud of his effort. His classmates began to see him not as different, but as someone remarkable, and slowly, admiration replaced curiosity and whispers. One day, during art class, the boy amazed everyone in a way that no one had expected. The teacher handed out paintbrushes, and he paused for a moment, studying the brush carefully. He had never held one like this before, yet with patience and focus, he managed to grip it between his toes. Leaning over the paper, he began to paint. At first, it was simple strokes, splashes of color, but soon a pattern emerged. A small, intricate painting began to take shape, and the room fell silent. Even the teacher, who had seen so many children create art, couldn't believe what she was witnessing. Word of his talent began to spread, first through the school, then through the neighborhood. People would come to see the boy paint, play, and achieve tasks that seemed impossible. What was ordinary for other children became extraordinary when he did it. The way he used his feet, toes, and mouth to navigate the world inspired everyone around him. It wasn't just about skill. It was about courage, resilience, and refusing to be limited by circumstances. His story quietly became a symbol of hope, showing that determination could overcome almost anything. But life was not without its challenges. Even with talent and courage, the boy faced moments of frustration. He would sometimes knock over a cup, drop a toy, or struggle with an activity that seemed simple to others. When this happened, he would pause, take a deep breath, and try again. Parents and teachers alike watched with admiration as he refused to give up. Each attempt, successful or not, built his confidence, teaching him that failure was not something to fear, but a step toward learning. His resilience was becoming a quiet miracle, shaping the person he would grow to be. Outside of school, the boy explored the world in ways that amazed his family. He loved nature, and he would sit on the grass, feeling the texture of leaves, picking up small stones, and examining flowers. Using his feet with incredible precision, he discovered a new way of interacting with the environment. Simple things like picking up a pebble or painting on a rock became acts of creativity and learning. Each discovery was a small triumph, a reminder that limitations existed only in the mind and not in the spirit. One particularly memorable afternoon changed everything. He was in the backyard, attempting to climb a small tree with the help of a special harness his father had designed. At first, he struggled, slipping and adjusting again and again, but with determination, patience, and focus, he began to make steady progress. His parents held their breath, watching every movement, and when he finally reached a sturdy branch and balanced himself, a cheer erupted, not just from his parents, but from the small crowd of neighbors who had gathered. The child had turned a simple act into a remarkable achievement, a sign of the extraordinary things he was capable of. It was moments like these that hinted at the wonder the world would soon witness. The boy's story was no longer just about overcoming obstacles. It was about the power of determination and the human spirit. Even strangers who saw him play, paint, or climb could feel the inspiration radiating from him. His courage reminded everyone that what seems impossible is only impossible until someone dares to try. People began to document his small victories, capturing photos and videos that would later touch hearts far beyond their community. By the end of that year, the boy's life had become a series of small but powerful triumphs. Each day brought something new, an achievement, a discovery, or a lesson learned. What made him extraordinary was not a single moment, but a lifetime of moments, a pattern of courage and resilience that could not be ignored. His family understood that he was destined for something remarkable, and though they didn't know the full story yet, they knew that the boy's spirit would one day move the world. In the quiet moments, they would watch him laugh, play, and experiment, and they knew that the miracle was not just what he could do with his feet, but the way he had changed the hearts of everyone around him. The boy, born without arms, was not only learning to live in the world. He was teaching the world how to see life differently. Through his small hands-less victories, he was showing that courage, determination, and love could create wonders beyond imagination. And even before the world knew his name, it was clear that he was on a journey that would inspire millions. His story was unfolding, step by step, toe by toe, leading to a moment that would make the whole world cry. A moment where the power of the human spirit would shine brighter than anyone could have imagined. By the time the boy was 7, it was clear that he was no ordinary child. What made him special wasn't just that he had no arms, but the incredible ways he adapted to life. Every day, he discovered new ways to play, learn, and express himself, and every discovery amazed those around him. It was during this time that his true talent began to emerge, something that would eventually capture the attention of the world. His love for creativity had always been there, even in the earliest years, but now it took a unique form. He found himself fascinated with painting, not just on paper, but on larger canvases, walls, and even stones. Using his feet with astonishing precision, he began creating intricate designs and patterns. Some were simple shapes, but others were detailed landscapes, animals, and even portraits. His parents watched in awe, unable to believe the skill and focus he displayed. Every stroke was a mix of concentration, joy, and pure imagination. School became a place where his talent truly shined. Teachers who had once worried about how he would cope now encouraged him to explore his artistic side. Art supplies were adjusted to suit his abilities, and he spent hours painting, experimenting, and creating. Classmates who were initially curious or hesitant now admired him. Sometimes, they would even watch quietly as he painted, amazed at how someone without arms could produce such beautiful work. His talent was slowly turning into something extraordinary. It wasn't just painting that captured attention. The boy had an unusual way of seeing the world. He noticed details that others often overlooked: the curve of a leaf, the pattern of raindrops on a window, the shadows of birds in flight. He captured all of it with remarkable precision, and when he translated these observations onto canvas, the result was breathtaking. People could feel the depth, the emotion, and the wonder in every piece. His art became more than just pictures. It became a story, a reflection of the world through his eyes. News of his talent began to spread beyond the school and neighborhood. Local artists and community members came to see him paint. Some were skeptical at first, unsure what to expect, but almost everyone left inspired. The boy's story was no longer just about a child living without arms. It was about someone creating beauty and wonder in a way the world had never seen. Even strangers who met him felt a sense of awe, realizing that limitations existed only if you let them. His parents noticed that their son's talent was affecting him in deeper ways as well. The more he painted, the more confident he became. Everyday challenges seemed smaller in comparison to the joy and focus he found in his art. He was learning patience, persistence, and self-expression, skills that were just as important as any physical ability. Each painting he completed was a celebration, a moment of triumph over a world that was not built for him. One day, a local art competition opened. Inviting children to submit their work, his parents encouraged him to try. Even though they weren't sure what would happen, the boy was nervous but excited, carefully selecting his best pieces, arranging them with care. He submitted several paintings, each one a reflection of his creativity, courage, and perspective on life. It was the first time his art would be seen beyond family, friends, and neighbors, and it was a big step toward the moment the world would eventually notice him. The day of the exhibition arrived, and the boy's paintings were displayed alongside other children's work. Visitors walked past, admiring each piece, but when they reached his section, many stopped in amazement. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. The paintings were detailed, vibrant, and full of emotion. The fact that a child without arms had created them made the moment even more powerful. Cameras clicked, and whispers of admiration filled the room. The boy stood quietly, smiling, proud of what he had achieved, unaware that he was beginning to touch hearts far beyond the gallery. By the end of the day, something extraordinary happened. A local newspaper reporter had seen the boy paint, and they were so moved by his story that they decided to write an article. Within hours, the story began to spread online. People from different towns and even countries read about this 7-year-old boy who painted with his feet, creating art that seemed almost magical. Comments poured in, praising his courage, talent, and determination. The world was slowly waking up to the wonder that had been growing quietly in a small neighborhood. At home that evening, the boy's parents sat with him, watching as he painted yet another picture. This time, he was inspired by the reactions he had received. He painted with joy, not just for himself, but for everyone who believed in him and everyone who needed hope. They realized that his art was no longer just a personal journey. It was becoming a source of inspiration for the world. The little boy, born without arms, was teaching everyone around him a lesson that words could never fully capture. That courage, creativity, and heart could create miracles. By the time he went to bed that night, the boy had unknowingly set the stage for a moment that would make the whole world cry. His story of perseverance, artistic talent, and pure determination was growing, ready to reach millions. What had started as a personal journey of adaptation and discovery had become a symbol of hope, resilience, and wonder. And even though he was just 7, it was clear that the boy was destined to show the world what true courage and human spirit could achieve. Even with all his talent and achievements, life was not always easy for the boy. Every day brought new challenges, obstacles, and moments that tested his courage. At school, he sometimes faced children who didn't understand him. Some stared, whispered, or even laughed. And while most classmates admired him, a few struggled to see beyond his disability. Each day presented a balance between inspiration and hardship, and the boy was learning to navigate both. At home, his parents noticed the emotional toll that small challenges could take on him. Simple tasks like opening a jar, turning a page, or climbing onto a chair sometimes frustrated him. Tears would fill his eyes, and he would sit quietly, unsure how to continue. But even in these moments, there was a spark of resilience. He would pause, breathe deeply, and try again. Sometimes it took multiple attempts, sometimes hours. But he refused to give up. His parents, watching him, were constantly amazed by his patience and determination. Every struggle was becoming a lesson in courage, and every small success a celebration. One afternoon, he faced a particularly difficult challenge. A school project required him to assemble a small model. Something simple for other children, but complicated for him. He tried using his feet, shifting and adjusting the pieces, but they kept falling. Frustration rose, and he felt the urge to give up. For the first time, he hesitated, wondering if some things were truly impossible. But then his father knelt beside him, gently encouraging him. "Take it one step at a time," he said. "You can do this." With renewed focus, the boy tried again, carefully maneuvering each piece with his toes, and after what felt like hours, the model finally stood complete. He looked at it with pride, knowing that persistence had won. Beyond school, there were moments when strangers' reactions could sting. People often stared in public, sometimes offering pity instead of encouragement. And though his parents shielded him as much as possible, he was old enough to notice the reactions. At first, these moments hurt, making him question why he was different, why he had to struggle in ways others didn't. But slowly, he began to understand something powerful. His difference was not a weakness. It was part of what made him unique. And it could become a source of inspiration. Even amid frustration, his talent continued to shine. Painting remained a refuge, a place where he felt free. When he painted, nothing else mattered, not whispers, not struggles, not small failures, just color, imagination, and focus. And sometimes he would create paintings that seemed to express more than words could ever capture. His artwork was becoming not only a hobby, but a bridge, connecting him to others and showing the world what determination could achieve. One of the hardest challenges he faced during this time was learning self-care, tasks that most children take for granted. Dressing, eating, brushing his teeth required creativity and practice. Some mornings were frustrating, and he would complain or become upset, but with patience, guidance, and endless encouragement from his parents, he learned to complete these tasks independently. Even tying his shoes became an accomplishment. Each success built his confidence. Each small act of independence strengthened his spirit. There were also moments of physical pain. Sometimes his toes would ache from gripping tools or objects. Sometimes his muscles would strain from stretching and balancing. And yet he never allowed pain to stop him. If he stumbled or fell, he would get back up, determined to keep going. His body was learning new ways to function, adapt, and achieve, and his mind was learning that perseverance was stronger than discomfort. Emotionally, he began to grow in ways that surprised his parents. The boy developed empathy beyond his years. He noticed when others struggled, and he would offer help in his own way, sometimes a kind smile, sometimes a small gesture with his feet, but always with warmth. Even classmates who had once laughed at him began to seek his advice or simply enjoy his company. They realized that courage and determination could teach lessons that no words could. Outside of structured learning and play, the boy discovered a love for storytelling and imagination. He would sit for hours, using his creativity to tell tales, draw maps, and create little worlds with his paintings. These activities nurtured his mind and soul, giving him confidence that his life could be full of adventure and discovery. Even small victories, painting a new scene, mastering a movement, completing a task independently, felt like triumphs of imagination and spirit. His parents often reflected on how far he had come, from the frightened newborn struggling to eat and sleep to the boy who painted masterpieces, adapted to challenges, and inspired others. Every step was hard-earned. Every success deserved celebration. They realized that their son was not defined by what he lacked, but by the heart, courage, and determination he displayed every single day. The boy was shaping his own path, showing the world that limitations exist only when you let them. By the time he turned 7.5, the boy's story had become more than a personal journey. It was a series of emotional milestones that touched everyone around him. His struggles were as inspiring as his achievements. And through every tear, every failure, and every small triumph, he was becoming a symbol of hope, courage, and the incredible power of the human spirit. Each day brought challenges, yes, but also the promise of new wonders, small victories, and lessons in resilience. And Though the world had not yet witnessed the full miracle he was about to create, it was clear that the boy, born without arms, was preparing to show everyone what true courage and determination could achieve. At 7 years and 9 months, the boy's life was about to change in a way no one could have predicted. His daily routines, small victories, and quiet triumphs had prepared him for this moment, though no one, not even his parents, knew it was coming. It was an ordinary morning, sunlight streaming through the windows, birds chirping outside, and the boy sitting at his small easel, painting with his toes as he always did. But something felt different that day, a spark of possibility that filled the air, as if the world itself was holding its breath. The local community center had announced a talent showcase for children, inviting kids of all abilities to share their skills with the public. The boy's parents encouraged him to participate, not knowing what the outcome would be, only that this was an opportunity to show the world what their son could do. Nervous but excited, he practiced tirelessly for days, experimenting with new techniques in his art, adjusting his movements, and perfecting details with patience that amazed everyone around him. His parents watched silently, marveling at how determination had become his second nature. On the day of the showcase, the room was filled with children, families, and spectators. The atmosphere was alive with excitement, chatter, and the occasional nervous laugh. The boy stood beside his paintings, his small feet tapping the floor, a mixture of excitement and anxiety written across his face. He glanced at the other children, some performing music, others reciting poems, all seemingly ordinary tasks to them. But he knew his act was different. Something inside him sparked a quiet confidence that this was his moment, and he could rise to the occasion. When it was his turn to present, the audience quieted down, curiosity shining in their eyes. The boy approached a blank canvas on a larger easel, the paints ready at his feet. His small toes gripped the brush with practiced precision, and he took a deep breath, closing his eyes for a brief moment, gathering focus. Then, with a steady, deliberate motion, he began to paint. Every stroke told a story. Every color spoke of imagination, determination, and courage. The room watched in silence as the painting slowly came to life. What started as random splashes of color transformed into a breathtaking scene, a landscape so vivid it seemed almost magical. People gasped as they realized the scale and detail of his work. No one could believe a child without arms had created something so intricate, so full of life. The brush moved effortlessly between his toes, capturing depth, shadows, and emotion. Each stroke carried meaning, reflecting not just skill but heart, courage, and a unique perspective on the world. Children and adults alike leaned closer, whispering, pointing, and occasionally tearing up as they watched this extraordinary act unfold before them. As the minutes passed, the boy worked tirelessly, focused completely on his art. He painted a scene of hope and joy, a sun rising over mountains, a river flowing calmly, trees swaying in the wind, and tiny figures walking together. The simplicity and beauty of the work were breathtaking, and the audience could feel the emotions behind every stroke. For many, it was more than a painting. It was a window into the soul of a child who had overcome unimaginable obstacles, showing that courage, determination, and creativity could produce wonders beyond imagination. When he finally stepped back, the room erupted in applause, cheering, clapping, and even tears flowed as people realized what they had just witnessed. The boy, small and humble, looked around in wonder, unsure if he had truly done something extraordinary, but feeling a deep sense of pride and joy. His parents rushed to hug him, tears streaming down their faces. They knew that the world had just seen a glimpse of the miracle that had been growing quietly in their home. Every struggle, every small victory, every moment of frustration had led to this moment. News of the boy's talent spread quickly. First through the local community, then online, videos of him painting went viral, and people from across the country marveled at his skill and determination. Comments poured in, praising his courage, artistry, and the power of his spirit. Strangers shared their own stories of struggle and triumph. Inspired by his journey, the boy had become more than a child with a disability. He had become a symbol of hope, resilience, and the limitless potential of human determination. But beyond the attention and admiration, the most profound change was within the boy himself. He realized that he could accomplish anything he set his mind to, that every challenge, no matter how difficult, was an opportunity to grow, that his difference was not a limitation but a source of strength. With each brushstroke, he had proven to himself and to the world that courage, creativity, and heart could create true wonders. His self-confidence soared, and the joy he felt in expressing himself was unparalleled. That night, at home, the boy's parents tucked him in a bed, still amazed by what had happened. They whispered words of pride and encouragement, telling him that he had touched hearts and inspired people far beyond their imagination. The boy smiled, exhausted but happy, feeling the quiet power of his own determination. Little did anyone know, this event was just the beginning, a turning point that would lead to an even greater moment, a wonder that would make the whole world cry. From that day forward, the boy's life changed, not because he suddenly had arms, but because he had discovered something even more powerful: the ability to inspire, the courage to dream, and the heart to overcome every obstacle. Every brushstroke had become a symbol, every painting a story, every step toward that moment had prepared him for the wonder that lay ahead, and the world, unaware yet, was about to witness something unforgettable, a miracle born not of magic, but of love, perseverance, and the extraordinary human spirit. By the time he was 6 years old, the boy had already amazed everyone around him. But now, at 7.5, he was about to do something that would leave the entire world in awe. It began quietly, in the same small neighborhood that had watched him grow. His paintings, his creativity, and his courage had already touched many, but no one expected the moment that would soon become a global sensation. It was another sunny morning, and the boy sat at his easel, toes gripping the paintbrush as usual. But today, there was a sense of purpose in his movements, a determination that went beyond anything seen before. The local news had heard about his talent from the previous showcase, and reporters had arrived to capture his story. Cameras were set up, lights flickered on, and a small crowd gathered. Yet the boy seemed completely unaware of the attention. Immersed in the world he created with his feet, he dipped the brush into the paint, and with precise, confident movements, began a painting unlike anything he had done before. His strokes were bold, flowing, and full of emotion. Each color he applied seemed to reflect hope, courage, and resilience. People watched in silence as he worked, the room filled with a sense of wonder. His art was no longer just a painting. It was a story, a reflection of every struggle he had faced, every obstacle, every tear, every small victory was captured in the vibrant colors on the canvas. Viewers could feel the depth of emotion emanating from the boy, and many were already moved to tears. Even reporters, accustomed to covering extraordinary stories, could not hide their amazement. This was not just talent. It was a display of human spirit, determination, and beauty in the face of adversity. The boy painted a scene of life, hope, and connection, a family walking together along a river, birds soaring in the sky, the sun casting golden light over mountains. It was a scene that celebrated life, overcoming obstacles, and the joy of simple moments. The audience watched as the tiny child, born without arms, translated his vision into reality with his feet, and for many, it was a moment that words could not describe. Their hearts swelled with admiration, emotion, and even disbelief. As he finished, the room erupted in applause. Tears flowed freely from onlookers who had been watching quietly, stunned by the courage and talent before them. His parents ran forward, embracing him, and tears of pride streamed down their faces. The boy looked around, smiling shyly, unaware that his simple act of painting would soon touch millions. Videos captured every moment, and within hours, the footage began to spread online. People from around the world watched, amazed that a child with no arms could create something so breathtaking. The story quickly went viral, drawing attention from news outlets, social media, and television programs. Messages poured in from viewers everywhere. Praises, encouragement, and stories of inspiration filled the internet. People shared how the boy had changed their perspective on life, how his courage reminded them to never give up, how his determination had moved them to tears. Strangers felt connected to him, inspired by his journey and the way he transformed his challenges into beauty. It wasn't just about art. It was about hope, resilience, and the incredible power of the human spirit. The boy, still unaware of the impact he had made, continued to paint. His focus remained on his craft, on expressing himself, and on finding joy in creation. Yet the world had already noticed. Millions were captivated by his story, and the phrase "boy born without arms inspires world" began appearing across headlines. Social media feeds were filled with videos of him painting, and people shared messages of love, hope, and admiration. The world was crying, not out of sadness, but out of overwhelming emotion and inspiration. Even those who had never seen him in person were moved. Teachers, children, and families around the globe watched the videos, sharing them in classrooms and homes. Some were inspired to try new things. Some found hope in difficult situations, and some simply felt awe at the courage of a child who refused to be defined by limitations. His story became a universal message, showing that determination, creativity, and heart could overcome any obstacle. No one could deny that a true wonder had been created, a miracle born from courage, love, and perseverance. At home, the boy's parents reflected on the journey that had led to this moment. From the first day he was born, facing the world without arms, to the countless small victories, struggles, and lessons learned. Every tear, every challenge, every triumph had built the foundation for this wonder. They realized that their son's life was not only a personal journey, but a story that had inspired millions, teaching people everywhere that hope, resilience, and determination could create miracles. By the end of the day, as the boy went to bed, exhausted but happy, the world had already changed because of him. The tiny child, who once struggled to eat, play, and explore, had touched hearts across continents. His story was no longer just about him. It had become a source of inspiration for humanity, showing that courage and creativity can move the hearts of millions, that a single act, fueled by determination and love, can create a miracle that makes the world stop and weep, not out of sadness, but out of hope and wonder. And in that quiet moment, as the boy slept peacefully, his parents whispered words of love and pride, knowing that the journey was far from over. Yet they also understood that he had already accomplished something extraordinary, something that would be remembered forever. A child born without arms had shown the world what true courage, determination, and heart could achieve. And in the process, he had created a moment of pure wonder, a story that would make millions cry, laugh, and believe in the incredible strength of the human spirit. After the miracle that had captured the world's heart, life for the boy changed in ways that no one could have imagined. The videos, articles, and social media posts had made him famous. But fame never changed the essence of who he was. He was still the same curious, determined, and creative child who loved to explore, paint, and discover. Yet the impact of what he had accomplished was undeniable. Millions of people now knew his name, admired his courage, and drew inspiration from his story. His life had become a symbol of hope, perseverance, and the limitless potential of the human spirit. The boy's parents were overwhelmed by the outpouring of support and love. Messages from strangers poured in daily. People sharing stories of how their lives had been touched by his journey. Parents encouraged their own children to never give up. Teachers used his story to teach lessons of resilience and creativity. And somewhere deep inside, the boy himself began to realize that what he had done had meaning far beyond his own achievements. His art, his determination, and his courage had the power to inspire others, and that realization filled him with quiet pride. School continued as it always had, but now the boy's classmates and teachers looked at him with new respect. The whispers, curiosity, and hesitation of the past were replaced by admiration and encouragement. Younger children wanted to learn from him, Parents of his classmates began bringing their children to watch him paint, to see how a child with no arms could accomplish what seemed impossible. His story was no longer about limitation. It was about creativity, heart, and human spirit. A living example that obstacles are not the end, but the beginning of something extraordinary. His own confidence soared, and he embraced challenges with a renewed sense of possibility, tasks that once frustrated him. Eating, dressing, writing, playing became moments of triumph. Each success reminded him that perseverance could overcome even the most difficult obstacles. And in every painting, in every creative effort, he left a piece of himself. A reminder to the world that determination and courage can create miracles. Not all victories needed an audience. Some were for him alone, and those personal triumphs were just as powerful as the moments that had made headlines. The boy also began to inspire other children facing challenges. Stories of his life were shared in schools, hospitals, and community centers, teaching children everywhere that differences are not limitations, that courage, creativity, and perseverance can overcome any obstacle. Letters from children poured in, some sharing their own struggles, some asking for advice, and some simply expressing admiration. The boy, in his quiet and humble way, had become a teacher, not through words, but through his actions, showing the world the meaning of true strength. Family life remained the heart of his world. His parents, proud but grounded, continued to nurture him with love, patience, and guidance. Every day was still filled with challenges, but also with joy, laughter, and small victories. They watched him grow not just physically, but emotionally, socially, and creatively. Every step forward was a testament to the power of love, support, and belief in one's potential. They knew that their son had not only changed their lives, but was changing the world. One small act of courage at a time. Even the community around him was transformed. People began to see differently, reacting not with pity, but with admiration and hope. Teachers, parents, and strangers learned to celebrate determination over perfection, effort over ability, and heart over circumstance. The boy's journey reminded everyone that life is not measured by what we lack, but by how we rise above challenges, how we face obstacles, how we inspire others, and how we embrace the possibilities within us. His story had become more than a personal journey. It was a beacon of hope for humanity. As he continued to grow, the boy discovered new ways to express himself, new art techniques, music, storytelling, and creative projects filled his days. Each new achievement, no matter how small, was a reminder that life is a journey of discovery, not limitation. His courage and creativity became a legacy, a gift to the world, showing that even in the face of the greatest challenges, extraordinary things are possible. People who had once doubted or feared differences began to celebrate them, inspired by the boy who had transformed his challenges into wonders. By the time he turned 8, it was clear that the boy's story would not be forgotten. The world had cried, laughed, and been inspired by his courage. Yet even with global recognition, he remained humble, curious, and determined to keep exploring, learning, and growing in every possible way. His parents knew that the greatest gift was not fame or admiration, but the impact he had on hearts, minds, and lives across the world. And they also knew that he was just beginning, that his life held even more lessons, achievements, and moments of wonder yet to come. The story of the boy born without arms is a reminder to everyone, young and old, that courage can overcome fear, determination can overcome obstacles, and love can overcome doubt. His life shows that miracles are not always sudden or magical, but are often created through persistence, creativity, and a fearless heart. That even a small child, facing unimaginable challenges, can teach the world lessons that adults often forget. The boy's journey will live on, inspiring generations to dream bigger, try harder, and believe in the impossible. And so, the boy, who once struggled to eat, play, and explore, grew into a symbol of hope, courage, and human potential. He had shown the world that the heart is stronger than any obstacle, that perseverance can create miracles, and that every life, no matter the challenges, has the power to inspire. His journey, from birth to wonder, leaves a lasting message. The greatest wonders are not always seen with the eyes, but felt in the heart. And through his courage and determination, the boy made the whole world cry, not out of sorrow, but out of hope, inspiration, and awe.